There's something about early mornings that strips everything down. No distractions, no excuses, just silence and whatever thoughts you've been trying to outrun. That's where I was, standing in the kitchen with my second cup of coffee, watching the steam curl upward in the dim blue light before sunrise. Molly wasn't home. Not unusual lately, but still not normal. She'd said it was just a night out with Madison, her friend from work who drank like she was still in college and couldn't hold her liquor to save her life. They were going out to some wine bar downtown, supposedly. Girls' night, she said, with that breezy confidence that used to charm me. Now it just made me feel like I'd forgotten something important. She hadn't texted. No calls. I'd stayed up till almost 2 a.m. Reading, pacing, pretending not to look at the clock. Eventually, I gave up. Told myself not to overthink it. That was something I'd been telling myself a lot lately. Then I heard the sound of tires on the gravel outside. Not loud, just a soft crunch, barely audible through the window. I looked up from the sink and checked the time. 6:48 a.m. A sleek black sedan pulled up to the curb. Not an Uber. Not a taxi. It was a personal car, clean, expensive, not flashy. I didn't recognize it. I watched the taillights flicker red as it idled for a moment. Then the passenger door opened. Out stepped Molly. She was wearing the same red dress she'd left in, the one with the open back and the little gold clasps along the spine. Her heels were dangling from her fingers, and her makeup was half faded, the kind of look you only get after hours of talking, drinking, kissing. Her hair was pulled up, messier than usual, with little strands clinging to her neck. And then I saw it. A gray scarf, heavy wool, wrapped loosely around her shoulders. Not hers. I knew every article of clothing she owned, mostly because I was the one who carried her dry cleaning in and out every week. This was definitely not hers. And from the way it was draped on her, more like it had been handed to her with care, not borrowed in a rush, I knew it belonged to someone else. The driver stepped out next. I didn't recognize him. He wasn't just some guy. He had that look, tall, clean-cut, confident. Slacks, a button-down, no tie. His sleeves were rolled up to the elbows like he'd just walked off the floor of a startup office. The way he moved, slow, deliberate, said this wasn't a mistake or a one-time thing. He walked over to her, said something I couldn't hear, and then kissed her on the temple. Just like that. No hesitation. No awkwardness. She smiled. Not surprised. Not nervous. Like she expected it. Like it had happened before. And then he turned, got back in the car, and drove off. Molly stood at the bottom of the steps for a second, brushing her hair back, then looked up and saw me standing in the window. She didn't flinch. She waved. Not frantically, just a little wave. The kind people give when they know they've been caught but already have a story prepared. The front door opened a moment later, and she walked in barefoot, holding her shoes in one hand, her bag in the other. "Hey," she said, like it was a Sunday morning and she'd just come back from grabbing bagels. "Sorry I'm late. Madison got totally wasted, like couldn't walk straight wasted. Caleb offered to drive us home. You would have lost your mind if you saw her." She laughed softly and shook her head like she couldn't believe what a mess the night had been. "Caleb?" I asked. My voice came out flatter than I intended. "Yeah, he's on the marketing team. Tall, dark hair, kind of nerdy cute. You've probably seen him at the holiday party." I hadn't. She kept talking while she walked to the sink, filled a glass with water. Like she needed to keep the momentum going, keep control of the story. He was a total lifesaver. Madison's boyfriend never showed up. I guess they're fighting again. So she was crying and throwing up and... Ugh. Honestly, it was a nightmare. I just watched her. Not because I was trying to mid-ate her. I wasn't even angry. Not yet. I was taking it all in. Watching how easily she moved through the lie. How seamless it was. Like slipping into a dress she'd worn a dozen times. She turned around and gave me a tired smile. "Don't look at me like that. Nothing happened. We dropped Madison off first. You can call her if you want. I'm too old for this kind of night, honestly." I didn't say anything. I was still looking at the scarf. And then I saw something else. In her hand, partly tucked into her bag, was a small box. Red foil, tied with a black ribbon. Chocolates. I could see a little card slipped under the ribbon. To M. Last night was unforgettable. See. She followed my gaze, realized I'd seen it, and with practiced ease, slid it fully into the bag and zipped it up. No idea where that came from, she said. Probably a party favor or something. That was the moment. Right there. I'd been suspicious before, but suspicion is easy to argue with. Doubt comes with holes and second guesses. This was different. This was clarity. Cold, quiet, permanent. I didn't yell, didn't demand an explanation. I just stood there, staring at the woman I thought I knew, wondering how long she'd been someone else. And she just smiled like nothing was wrong. They say hindsight is 20/20ths. I never liked that phrase, always sounded smug, like a cheap way to excuse missing something that mattered. But that morning, as Molly disappeared into the bedroom to shower, humming like she hadn't just lied to my face, it hit me how blind I'd been. And not just recently. I stood in the hallway, staring at the closed door, coffee cooling in my hand, and one by one, things started clicking into place. Not dramatic things, not fireworks, just patterns, quiet ones, threads I'd noticed but never pulled. Like how she stopped leaving her phone on the table when she went to the bathroom. It used to be nothing. She'd toss it down, half dead, notifications buzzing constantly. But somewhere along the line, maybe 6 months ago, it started following her. Everywhere. To the shower. To the laundry room. Even outside when she watered the plants. I joked about it once. You dating your phone now? She laughed and said, "What, are you jealous of Apple?" That easy laugh. That charm. Another time I remember, maybe March, we were on the couch, and I glanced at her screen while she scrolled Instagram. She tilted it away just slightly. I didn't say anything, but I remembered. A moment that lasted 2 seconds, but stuck. Back then, I chalked it up to privacy. We all need it, right? And then there were the social media changes. At first, subtle. A new profile picture. Just her, smiling at the beach, no caption. Before, it had been a picture of the two of us at her cousin's wedding. I noticed the change one night while brushing my teeth. Didn't think much of it. But then I realized all our photos were gone. Not just hidden, gone. Deleted. Every trip, every tagged memory. Vanished like they'd never happened. I asked her about it once and she shrugged. Just cleaning up. I don't want work people seeing all my personal stuff. I wanted to believe her. I really did. Because if I didn't, I'd have to admit that maybe I wasn't part of the image she wanted to show the world anymore. She started wearing perfume more often, too. The kind she used to save for dinners or anniversaries. First, I liked it. Thought maybe she was trying again. We'd gone through a rough patch last fall. Fewer date nights, more silent dinners. But I thought maybe she was finding her way back. Then there was the gym. Molly never liked the gym. She joked it was too sterile, too meat market. She preferred yoga classes, at least she used to. But suddenly she had a new membership at some boutique place downtown. She'd leave for it on Saturday mornings in full makeup. Eyeliner, lashes, even lipstick to lift weights. One Saturday, I hugged her goodbye before she left. She smelled like men's cologne. Not mine. A musky, expensive scent I didn't recognize. New detergent? I asked, half laughing. She pulled back. Oh, must be from someone at work. We had a full elevator this morning. I believed her. God help me, I believed her. That was my mistake. It wasn't just that I didn't want to see it. It was that every time something didn't make sense, she made it sound like I was crazy for noticing. Like I was paranoid, or clingy, or insecure. And she did it with such grace. Always calm, always just amused enough to make me feel like the problem was mine. And I fell for it. Over and over again. There was a Sunday, not long after her birthday, when I caught her smiling at her phone. Not the polite kind of smile you give your coworker. A real one. Soft, private. She was stirring her tea and just beaming at the screen. I leaned over and asked, "Who's that?" She turned the phone face down and grinned. Just Madison being a clown as usual. It was too quick. The kind of answer you have ready before the question even comes. That's the thing with trust, it's like a rope bridge. One frayed cord and you're fine. Two, still holding. But after a while, enough of them snap and you feel the whole thing start to sway under your feet. That morning, standing in the hallway while she blow-dried her hair, I realized the bridge was gone. It had collapsed months ago. I'd just been pretending the fall wasn't happening. I walked through the apartment slowly, noticing things for the first time. Noticing how she had a second toothbrush now. A travel one, tucked behind the mouthwash. She never used it here. I noticed how her duffel bag was half-packed in the closet, like she always had to be ready to leave. I opened the bathroom drawer and saw a second phone charger. Not the one I bought her. Newer. Still pristine. I closed the drawer. Then I sat on the edge of the bed and just breathed. This wasn't an affair. Not anymore. This was a second life. One I didn't know about. One I'd probably been excluded from for a long time. That was the part that got me the most. Not the lie itself, but how good she'd gotten at it. I remembered a night maybe 3 weeks earlier. She'd come home late, still wearing heels, hair slightly messed. She looked electric, alive. She spun into the apartment, poured herself a glass of red wine, and flopped on the couch next to me like she'd just won the lottery. I needed that, she sighed. What was it? I asked. She hesitated, just for a second, then smiled. Team drinks. Everyone finally let loose for once. I asked if she ate. Nope, she said, sipping wine. Too busy talking. Later that night, I found a receipt in her coat pocket. Not from a bar. From a small Italian place on the east side. Candlelit, romantic, hard to get into unless you call ahead. 2 entrees, 1 bottle of wine, 1 dessert, tiramisu. She hates tiramisu. It was someone else's favorite. I didn't say anything then, but I kept the receipt, slid it into a folder in my desk. It's funny how your brain knows before your heart does. It starts collecting evidence before you're even willing to accept what it means. And now it was all clicking into place like a jigsaw puzzle I didn't know I was solving. The new lingerie I found tucked in her drawer. Tags gone, clearly worn. Nothing she'd ever worn around me. The sudden interest in travel for work, even though her company rarely sent anyone out of state. The night she stayed in a hotel, because she was too tired to drive home from the event. The unreturned texts. The way she stopped asking me about my day. The way she stopped caring if I asked about hers. The silence between us had stopped being comfortable a long time ago. But we kept pretending like it was just a phase. Just a rut. Every couple has them, right? But some ruts aren't ruts. They're exits. And she had already taken hers. After that morning, after the lie, the scarf, the chocolates with someone else's name, I started watching differently. Not obsessively. Not like some jealous cliché. Just closely. I didn't confront her. That would have given her power, control over the story. No. I needed something that left no room for charm, for twisting, for you're overreacting or you misunderstood. I needed something clean, cold, undeniable. And as much as I hated it, I knew where it would come from. Her lies had always been neat, tied up in bows. Late nights, girl talk, client dinners. But lies, no matter how polished, don't hold up under friction. If you press hard enough, something gives. So I waited, and it didn't take long. 3 days later, she mentioned a bachelorette party downtown. Her coworker Renee was getting married. They were going bar hopping, maybe hitting a karaoke place after. No boys, she added with a smirk, like she already imagined me asking. Just wine and bad singing. I nodded. Sounds fun. She raised an eyebrow. You're not suspicious? No, I said and smiled. And in that moment I think she believed me again. I think she let her guard down just enough. She left around 7:30 p.m. wearing black heels and a dark green dress I'd never seen before. Tight, elegant, too much for a just girls' night. I told her she looked beautiful. She kissed me on the cheek like it was any other night. I waited exactly 30 minutes. Then I got in my car and drove. Not fast. Not angry. I wasn't chasing anything. I already had a plan. You see, earlier that day, I'd opened her laptop. Nothing invasive, just enough to see her calendar was still synced to our cloud. There was an event on it titled Renee's Last Rodeo Party Popper. But the location wasn't a karaoke bar or wine lounge. It was a restaurant. Downtown. Reservations for two. I made my own. Not at her table, at the one beside it. The place was upscale, dimly lit, with quiet jazz playing overhead and waiters that moved like shadows. I checked in under a fake name, one I'd chosen carefully. His wife's name. The man from the car. Caleb. Yeah. I'd found him. Took me 2 days of soft digging. Not even that hard. Molly wasn't careful. She never had to be. I found his LinkedIn, his wedding announcement, his wife's Facebook. Pretty. Blonde. A mother. And most importantly, naive. Still had married to Caleb Hart in her bio. She even posted her phone number once, years ago, asking about babysitters. I kept that saved. So when I made the reservation at 9:10 under Alyssa Hart, I knew exactly what I was doing. I arrived early, took the corner table, ordered a bottle of wine I didn't intend to drink, and waited. At 9:07 they walked in. Molly and Caleb. No hiding it this time. No coworker giving her a ride. No drunk friend to babysit. Just the two of them, laughing like it was their anniversary. Holding hands until the hostess appeared. I didn't flinch, didn't blink. Just sat with my menu open, peering over it like a casual diner deciding between salmon and risotto. They sat by the window, not 10 feet from me. She didn't see me, not at first. She was too busy leaning in close, whispering something that made him grin like a kid at Christmas. She touched his wrist. He reached over and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. That same tenderness he'd used when he kissed her at the curb. Like they were building a world without consequences. I let them have it. For a few minutes. Then I took out my phone, opened the app, and sent the bottle of wine to their table. A moment later, the waiter appeared beside them, carefully placing it between their glasses. "Compliments of the lady behind you," he said, nodding toward me. Molly turned, smile still halfway formed, and froze. Her face lost all color. Eyes locked on mine. Caleb turned too, confused, trying to place me. He couldn't. I smiled politely, lifted my glass, and then glanced at my phone again. Sent the second part of the plan. A text. To Alyssa. "Hey, sorry to reach out like this. I'm not sure how to say this, but I think your husband is having dinner right now with mine. 9:10, Bellamy's Bistro, downtown. I know this sounds crazy. You can come see for yourself. I'm at the table across from them. My name is Mark." I hit send. Then I waited. 5 minutes. That's all it took. The front doors opened again, and in came Alyssa. She looked calm. Too calm. Like someone trying very hard not to fall apart in public. Her eyes scanned the room. Molly saw her first. Panic. Real panic. Her body tensed. She reached for Caleb's hand. Not to hold it, but to stop it. He looked at her, confused, then followed her gaze. And there she was. Alyssa. She walked toward the table like she'd rehearsed it. Stopped right beside them. "Caleb," she said. He blinked. "Alyssa? What are you doing here?" She looked at Molly, then back at him. "You told me you had a work meeting." Molly started to speak. "I'm sorry, this is a..." "Don't," Alyssa said, turning to her. "Just don't." And then she looked at me. "Are you Mark?" I nodded. "I thought so," she said quietly. "Thank you." The silence that followed was brutal. Caleb was white as paper. Molly looked like she'd swallowed broken glass. No one moved. No one spoke. Until Alyssa slowly, calmly, pulled the wedding ring off her finger and dropped it into Caleb's wine glass. It landed with a soft splash. Then she turned and walked out without looking back. Molly didn't chase her. Caleb sat there, stunned. I stood, left a few bills on the table and walked past them. Molly looked up at me. "Mark." But I didn't stop. Didn't say a word. Just kept walking, out into the cold night air that suddenly felt clearer than it had in months. I didn't need to ask any questions. I had the answers now. And this time, she couldn't talk her way out of it. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't rage or cry or drink or punch walls. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table until the sun came up. Same table we bought at that second-hand furniture shop when we moved in. She said she liked how lived-in it looked. Said she wanted things that had a story. Funny. Now it had one. There was a cold cup of tea in front of me. 2 coasters, one still under hers from the morning before. Lipstick stain. Red. The apartment was quiet. Almost disrespectfully so. Should have screamed. Instead, it just watched. I opened my laptop and got to work. Not on emails. Not on anything work-related. I started compiling. Not because I wanted revenge, not yet anyway, but because I needed clarity. Needed to see it all in one place. Her lies were slippery, well-dressed. They twisted when left in your memory too long. But documents, **TS timestamps? They don't blink. They don't soften. First came the receipts, literal ones. The Italian restaurant. A hotel room booked downtown under her name 2 weeks ago. On the same night she told me she was at Renee's bridal shower. An Uber ride from a neighborhood she had no reason to be in. Then came the digital trail. Our phone plans were still linked. She probably forgot. I hadn't. I pulled the logs. 3 dozen late-night calls to a single number. Always around 11:30 p.m. to 12:45 a.m. Always under 30 minutes. Private number, but I ran it through an app. Caleb Hart. Same guy who kissed her at the curb. The same one who'd watched his wife walk out of a restaurant last night with a ring floating in wine. I took **TS. Labeled the folder. Calls and contacts. I didn't stop there. I went to her shared calendar. Pulled old invites. Matched her girls' nights to hotel bookings, Uber receipts, phone calls. They aligned too perfectly. It wasn't even clever, just persistent. She counted on me not looking. Not asking. Next was her cloud storage. I'd set it up years ago, helped her sync it with her phone. She never changed the password. Probably assumed I forgot it. I hadn't. Inside were photos. Dozens. Not graphic. Not scandalous. Worse, they were an asterisk mate in that quiet, casual way that made my skin crawl. Caleb with his arm draped over her shoulder in a hotel mirror selfie. Molly wearing a hoodie that wasn't mine. Sipping coffee on a balcony I didn't recognize. A candid **T of them laughing on a blanket under a tree. They looked like a couple. Comfortable. Lived in. Like I'd been replaced a long time ago and just hadn't gotten the memo. I downloaded everything. Created a folder. Harper. That was the alias she once used for a burner Instagram. I remembered it now. She said she needed it to follow fashion pages without work people seeing. I believed her. By noon, I had an entire file system. Harper. Photos. Calendar logs. Phone records. Hotel receipts. Social media captures. **TS. Text messages. To M. Chocolates photo. It looked sterile. Professional. Like I was building a case because I was not for court. Not yet. Just for me. At 12:46 p.m. The front door opened. She walked in holding iced coffee. Like it was any other Saturday. Hair still wet from a shower taken elsewhere. She stopped when she saw me at the kitchen table. Laptop open. Papers spread out like a crime scene. "Hey," she said slowly. "You okay?" I didn't answer. I simply pointed to the box on the table beside me. Cardboard. Medium-sized. Taped. Inside. Everything of hers I could gather in the last 6 hours. Birthday cards she'd written me, old notes from trips, a couple of Polaroids. The necklace she lost and I'd found under the bed. The concert ticket from our 5th anniversary. Her letters to me when we were long distance. All of it. Hers. She looked at the box, then at me. "What is this?" "This," I said quietly, "is yours." She blinked. "Mark, I don't." I clicked the trackpad. Opened the folder. Turned the screen toward her. "This is also yours." She stepped closer, saw the file names. Paused. Then sat. Her voice, when it came, was smaller than I'd ever heard it. "What is this supposed to mean?" I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I just said, "It means I know." She didn't try to deny it. Not really. Instead, she leaned back in the chair and folded her arms. Defense mode. "So you've been spying on me. I've been watching. There's a difference. Mark, this is a violation. You don't have the right. You violated first," I said. Flat. Calm. Her mouth opened. Closed. She reached for the laptop. I didn't stop her. She scrolled. Clicked. Photos. Messages. The receipt from the boutique hotel. A selfie she must have forgotten existed. Caleb kissing her cheek. Her eyes closed. "I can explain." "Don't," I said. "I can," she insisted. It wasn't serious. It got out of hand. "Don't," I repeated. This time she stopped. The silence was thick. Her face pale. She wasn't crying. She wasn't angry. She was calculating. That scared me more than anything else. Because there was no guilt. No regret. Just the realization that she had lost control of the story. She leaned forward, voice lower now. "What are you going to do with this?" "I don't know yet." "Are you divorcing me?" "Not today." "That's not a no." "No," I said. "It's not." She rubbed her eyes. Tried again. "You never asked if I was happy, Mark." I laughed once. Quietly. Not out of humor. "That's your defense?" "I'm not defending myself," she snapped. "You are. Just badly." She stood up. Grabbed the box. Paused at the door. "You know this doesn't make you the hero." "I'm not trying to be." "You think hurting me back is justice?" "No," I said. "But I think clarity is." She stared at me, and for the first time in weeks, maybe months, she had nothing to say. She left. No slammed door. No parting sh*t. Just footsteps. And then nothing. The apartment was still again. But not peaceful. Not yet. That would come later. The first day after she left, I didn't move much. I sat on the couch and listened to the hum of the fridge. I counted the number of times the heater clicked on. I watched the sunlight crawl across the hardwood floors like it was trying to get away from me. 2. The silence wasn't peaceful. It wasn't loud either. It was hollow. The kind that doesn't echo. It just settles like dust in an empty room. No text came. No follow-up. No apology. No novel-length justification. And weirdly, I didn't expect one. I think she knew there was nothing left to say. Or maybe she was just waiting to see how long I'd let the quiet stretch before I broke it. I didn't. She didn't either. So the silence stayed. On the third day, I started cleaning. Not because I needed to, but because the mess reminded me of her. A half-used candle still on the windowsill. One of her socks under the bed. Her shampoo in the shower with the cap always loose. She never twisted it all the way. I moved through the apartment like I was ghost hunting. Finding things that still smelled like her, looked like her, felt like her. I gathered it all, not angrily. Not like I was trying to erase her. Just gather the loose ends. It's funny what your hands remember when your heart's numb. How to fold her sweaters. How to handle her books without creasing the spine. I found myself reading the titles like I was trying to find a version of her in them. Like the woman I married was still hidden between the lines of a dog-eared page. And then I found the box. It was buried deep in the back of the hall closet. Behind old tax files, receipts, a suitcase we hadn't used in years. Plain shoebox. No labels. Just taped shut with that blue painter's tape she used for everything. I almost didn't open it. But something about the way it was hidden made me stop. It wasn't hers, not completely. It didn't have her handwriting. But I recognized the perfume. Faint on the paper. Her favorite one, the one she wore back when we first started dating. Inside were letters. Stacks of them. Old, folded pages, some torn from journals, some on stationery from hotels, some scribbled on notebook paper. I sat on the hallway floor and read every single one. They weren't from Caleb. They were older. Different names. Different handwriting. Different towns. Ryan. Vince. Anthony. One dated 3 years ago. One from 5. Even one from before we were married, though that one, I realized later, overlapped with when we first started dating. One ended like this: "Thanks for last night. Even if it stays just between us, I'll remember it. You were electric, and you smiled like you used to mean it." There was no photo, no signature, just that. I read that line 3 times. Even if it stays just between us. That's when I stopped being surprised. That's when I realized this wasn't just Caleb. This wasn't some out-of-character slip or sudden loss of control. This wasn't a weak moment. It was a pattern. It was who she was. I don't know what shook me more, that she'd done it before or that she'd kept the letters. That she'd wanted to. Like they were souvenirs from people who only got to borrow her for a night. And I was the one who thought I had all of her. I slid the letters back into the box, sat on the floor, and just stared at it for a long time. At the handwriting, at the ink smudges, at the creases worn deep from folding and unfolding. This wasn't something she meant to forget. This was a collection, a hidden archive of the parts of her life I wasn't allowed into. And yet, here it was, tucked behind tax folders and winter coats, in our home. That night, I went back to the folder I'd started. Harper. I opened it, created a new subfolder. System. I dragged the photos of the letters into it, scanned them, labeled them by date, by name if it was visible. I didn't know what I was building anymore. A case file? A memory vault? A reminder? Maybe all of it. Maybe none. But I couldn't ignore it. Because once you understand someone isn't who you thought they were, every version of them comes into question. Every conversation gets rewound in your head. Every kiss feels like something borrowed. Every "I love you" starts to sound rehearsed. It's not about one betrayal. It's about the foundation cracking, and then realizing it was hollow from the start. A few nights later, I had a dream. Not about her. About myself. I was standing in our bedroom, except everything was slightly off. The walls were too close. The window didn't open. My voice didn't work. I was trying to pack, but the suitcase had no bottom. Everything I put in it just kept falling through. When I woke up, the room was dark, and for the first time in a while, I didn't check my phone. Didn't hope for a message. Didn't expect a knock. I just laid there and listened. No footsteps. No shower running. No second toothbrush rattling in the holder. It was just me. The next morning, I cleaned out the bottom drawer of the dresser, the one she used for socks, lingerie, and things I wasn't supposed to put away wrong. I found a note I wrote her 2 years ago, hidden under an old pair of leggings. It was dumb. Just a sticky note I'd left on the mirror one morning. "You're my favorite part of this whole dumb life." I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at it. I'd meant it. That was the hardest part. I never cheated. Never looked elsewhere. Never stopped choosing her, even when we fought, even when things were cold. I was all in. She was part-time. I took a photo of the note, added it to the folder. Under a new section. Before. I don't know why I kept archiving. Felt like a form of grief. Some people write letters to the dead. Some people talk to the air. I organized evidence. Because what do you do when the love of your life turns out to be a stranger who borrowed your last name? You prove it, at least to yourself. So the silence stayed. No messages. No apologies. No knock at the door. And for the first time, I didn't want one. Not anymore. A week later, I drove up to the cabin in Wisconsin. The one we'd stayed at during better days, before secrets, before cold dinners and false goodnights. I brought a hoodie she once gave me, a notebook, and nothing else. The air was colder than I expected, but I left the windows open anyway. The silence felt cleaner out there, like I could finally hear myself think. I wrote in the notebook, not to her, not to anyone. Just thoughts. Grief without an audience. Then I walked to the dock. Pulled her old keychain from my pocket, the one with both our initials, the one that used to hang on the hook by the door. I let it go. Watched it sink into the lake. When I got home, the apartment no longer smelled like her. And that, somehow, felt like relief. A month later, a letter arrived. No return address. Inside was a photo. Us on a bridge in Chicago years ago. On the back, in her handwriting. I really did feel it back then. I looked at it for a while. Then I placed it into the folder. And I closed it for good. That evening, I deleted her number, cleared out the last drawer in the bathroom, stopped checking the hallway light twice. I made coffee, sat by the window, and for the first time, I didn't wait for a call. It wasn't triumph. It was release.